So I recently had done a video on the rise of Indonesian action films and why I love them. And honestly, it got a lot more of a reaction than I ever anticipated. And no, I was not trying to clickbait either. I mean, who can tell with the fucking algorithm these days? But regardless, not everyone was happy with it, with some claiming that it was more of a Western action film, and more specifically, a quote-unquote Gareth Evans style of action filming. And that's the focus of this video, because whether you agree with those conclusions or not, and I did refute them, it does say something as to the impact that he's had on how martial arts and action filmmaking is done these days. Perhaps an impact not seen in a genre since Hong Kong's John Woo in the 1980s and 1990s blew up in the West. There have been plenty of good action sequences before Evans came on the scene, but what made his stand out so much was somehow balancing out the frantic and chaotic and brutal nature of close quarters combat with camera work that allowed us to follow what was happening without shaking the camera all to hell, just to fake the intensity of it and that the actors somehow knew what they were doing. While also at the same time still able to show an absurd kind of beauty in the choreography that works with it and defies, ironically, the brutality of that same scene. I mean, watching someone getting their head slammed into the wall several times, their throat cut along with broken glasses of wood or glass, or getting their head literally shot to pieces, honestly never looked so good. And yes, it does feel weird for me even saying that. I kind of feel like a psycho. But regardless, I kind of feel like I'm in confession even saying that. But it's also too the build up to the fight sequences that often start out quietly and slowly build up that tension until you feel everything's about to explode, but then it doesn't. It holds it for a little bit longer and then a little bit longer and just kind of edges you in a way. And then suddenly, boom, it's off. So much so that the actual fight, quite honestly to me, felt like a catharsis and a release of tension than it did watching people choosing extreme violence. The fight scenes also hide very well the fact that these are in reality well choreographed sequences by stunties and actors rather than people who are actually legitimately trying to kill each other. The battles not only feel intense, but also genuine, with the cameras at times following the movements exactly as they're flowing before suddenly stopping or zooming out suddenly to get a wider shot. Or, if it starts out with a wider shot, that there's a genuine intent that these people are still trying to legitimately murder each other. These are not people who are just phoning it in, that's for damn sure. Rather, the protagonist always feels like they're not in control and are just trying to survive the experience. And when I compare that to other action movies that I've always kind of seen in the past, it's quite the opposite, where the protagonist always seems to have this kind of calm, cool, collective, like they knew what they're doing and that nothing's going to freak them out per se. Gareth Evans' style works so well in this that it's honestly what introduced Silat to the modern stage with karate, Muay Thai, Kung Fu, and kenjutsu. And you can argue all you want that those films are not real Indonesian films or whatever. There's simply no denying that, honestly, no one had ever heard or even seen Silat before the Raid franchise came out back in '09. But perhaps the biggest proof of Gareth Evans style action filming is the influence that it's had on filmmaking following the Raid. From the Netflix series Daredevil and the Punisher to the throne room fight, I think anyway, in Star Wars The Last Jedi, as well as recent other Indonesian action films like The Night Comes For Us and The Shadow Strays, movies which were not directed by Evans, by the way, because he was directing at the time apparently the movie Havoc, which just came out. And when you look at this, there's just simply no denying that the uber amount of violence and blood and gore involved, that there is something apparently disturbingly genuine and appealing about this style of filming martial arts. It's like after the Raid series, Western filmmakers suddenly felt the need to communicate at least something close to genuine fighting. And if you notice, since then you see very little shaky cam anymore in action sequences from here on out, thank God. In fact, you can probably thank Gareth Evans for the disappearance of shaky cam from Hollywood action films. People have been complaining about it forever, for its inability to show us what the hell is actually going on, so as to hide that the actors weren't really that good in fighting. They just wanted to make it look that way by making it crazy and frenetic. Evans style filming flipped that script, much like how Hong Kong cinema flipped the script in Hollywood action movies back in the 90s and 00s. It's fluid, yet not clean like other action filmmaking. It's not phoned in and overly dance-like choreography like American action filmmaking. It's both ridiculous and at the same time honest in its portrayal of character motivations and martial arts in a real-world circumstance and not a stage-like setting where everyone kind of takes their turn, or at least that it's not so obvious. There's no crane kicks or death touches here. And as much as I would love to see this in a Star Wars setting, it's not going to be likely. With, again, the closest to that was going to be the Last Jedi throne room fight. Now, many criticize this because of these elements as well. Something that comes off to me anyway as kind of hypocritical, if those same critics are going to praise the blood and gore in Sinners, which is a great film by the way, or in the Final Destination series, and yet suddenly throw up the red flag in actual situations where everyone knows what's going to go down and chooses violence instead of having someone or something just stalking them and then murdering them. There's certainly room for other styles of filmmaking of martial arts and fight sequences, but for me, I'm hoping that the Gareth Evans style remains part of that trend.